Salvatore Rina. Salvatore Rina was born into poverty in the Sicilian town of Corleone, a place that would later become synonymous with mafia terror. From a young age, Rina showed a natural talent for violence. By his 20s, he was already involved in murders, extortion, and armed robberies. But Rina did not want to be a soldier. He wanted to rule. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, Rina and his inner circle launched a brutal campaign to seize total control of the Sicilian mafia. Rival bosses were hunted down one by one. Bodies disappeared into acid or were buried in secret mass graves. By the end of it, Salvatore Rina stood at the top of a mountain of corpses. Unlike traditional mafia leaders, Rina did not believe in compromise. He believed in annihilation. Anyone who threatened his power was marked for death. In 1992, Rina ordered the assassinations of two of Italy's most famous anti-mafia magistrates, Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino. Both were killed in massive bomb attacks that shook the entire country. Rina believed these murders would force the Italian state to retreat. He was wrong. Italy responded with military-style operations. Thousands of soldiers were deployed across Sicily. New anti-mafia laws were passed. Former mafia members began cooperating with authorities in exchange for protection. One by one, Rina's allies were arrested. In January 1993, after decades on the run, Salvatore Rina was captured in Palermo while riding in a car, unarmed and disguised. Rina was sentenced to multiple life terms and placed in solitary confinement. In 2017, Salvatore Rina died in a prison hospital at the age of 87. No followers, no empire, no power. Just an old man in a cell, forgotten by the world he once terrorized. Paul Castellano. Paul Castellano became boss of the Gambino crime family in 1976, after the death of legendary mafia leader Carlo Gambino. He inherited an empire worth billions, controlling construction rackets, meat distribution, trucking companies, and massive extortion networks across New York. Castellano ruled differently than most bosses. He preferred boardrooms over back alleys. He lived in a fortified mansion. He dressed like a corporate executive. Many traditional mobsters saw him as distant and arrogant. Behind closed doors, Castellano feared betrayal. He suspected some of his own men were stealing from him. Others he believed were cooperating with law enforcement. Instead of easing tensions, Castellano planned purges. Rumors spread that multiple high-ranking members were marked for death. One of those men was John Gotti. Gotti believed Castellano had become weak. More importantly, he believed Castellano intended to kill him. Gotti decided to strike first. On December 16, 1985, Castellano arrived at Spark Steakhouse in Manhattan for a meeting. As he stepped out of his car, gunmen approached from behind. They fired repeatedly at close range. Castellano collapsed on the sidewalk, dead within seconds. Gotti watched from a nearby vehicle. Law enforcement immediately intensified surveillance on the Gambino family. Wiretaps multiplied. Informants came forward. Castellano's death did not save the Gambino empire. It marked the beginning of its long collapse. Albert Anastasia, the Lord High Executioner. Albert Anastasia was one of the most feared men in American criminal history. He co-founded Murder Incorporated, the enforcement arm responsible for hundreds of contract killings. Anastasia ruled through terror. He enjoyed violence. He encouraged it. By the 1950s, Anastasia became boss of what would later be known as the Gambino family. But power made him careless. He insulted other mafia leaders. He ignored the commission. He threatened allies. Behind his back, other bosses decided Anastasia had become too unstable to live. On October 25, 1957, Anastasia entered the barbershop at the Park Sheraton Hotel in Manhattan. He sat down for a shave. Two masked gunmen walked in. They fired multiple shots. Anastasia tried to fight back, swinging wildly. He collapsed in the barber chair, bleeding to death. His murder reshaped mafia leadership across New York. Joe Masseria, the boss, trade at the table. During the late 1920s, Giuseppe Joe Masseria was the most powerful mafia boss in the United States. He controlled vast bootlegging, gambling, and extortion networks. Masseria ruled with old-world brutality. He demanded total loyalty. One of his most trusted lieutenants was Charles Lucky Luciano. Luciano secretly believed Masseria was holding the mafia back. He wanted a modern organization, not constant war. Luciano made a deal with Masseria's enemies. On April 15, 1931, Masseria met Luciano for lunch at a restaurant in Coney Island. They played cards while eating. Luciano excused himself to the bathroom. Seconds later, gunmen entered. Masseria was shot multiple times at the table. He died instantly. Luciano returned, calmly surveying the body. The assassination ended a bloody mafia civil war, but it also proved a terrifying truth. In the mafia, even your closest ally can become your executioner. Carmine Galante. The cigar still burning. Carmine Galante was a dominant figure in the Bonanno family. He controlled massive heroin trafficking routes between Sicily and the United States. Galante demanded that all profits flowed directly to him. Other bosses received nothing. This violated mafia rules. Galante ignored warnings. He believed no one would dare kill him. He was wrong. On July the 12th, 1979, Galante was sitting on the patio of Joe and Mary's Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. He was eating lunch, smoking a cigar. Gunmen walked up from behind. They shot him in the face and chest. Galante fell backward, dead. The cigar was still in his mouth. His execution was approved by multiple mafia families. Galante's death sent a clear message. No boss is above the rules. Vincent Gigante, the boss who pretended to be crazy. Vincent, the chin. Gigante became boss of the Genovese family in the 1980s. He was extremely intelligent and extremely paranoid. To avoid prosecution, Gigante pretended to be mentally ill. He wandered the streets in pajamas. He talked to himself. Courts believed he was incompetent. Behind the act, Gigante secretly ran the most powerful mafia family in America. But the deception created problems. Communication was slow. Orders were misunderstood. Paranoia grew. Eventually, former allies cooperated with the government. Secret recordings proved Gigante was faking insanity. In 1997, he was convicted. Gigante died in prison in 2005. The man who pretended to be insane spent his final years truly powerless.